What's up, everybody? Gibbs here. Welcome into Gibbs Drops the Needle, your one stop spot for everything music. I just wanted to give an introduction to myself and what I am hoping to accomplish with Gibbs Drops the Needle. So, might get a little lengthy here, but I'm going to give a background on myself and everything involving music from when I was a child to up until now. So, love for music and everything started for me at a very early age. I was always fascinated and drawn to music. I remember going into the basement and listening to my mom's old 70s 8 tracks and hanging out down there with my sister and just really jamming out to that music. My mom and my grandma both played a little bit of piano, and so we always had a piano in the house that I would sometimes dabble around on. My sister also would dabble around on it for a little bit. So music was always around and easy accessible for us. I remember at a very young age going on car rides and probably annoying the crap out of my parents and my sister because at the time, being a little kid, I didn't realize that just because I had headphones on and couldn't hear myself, that didn't mean that the rest of the car ride couldn't hear me. So most of my time as a child was spent in the car singing at the top of my lungs Space Jam soundtrack or whatever I was listening to at the time. As I got a little bit older, I got to try out some music instruments. In fourth grade, learned how to play violin, and we also did probably what most music classes do with the learning of the recorder. And I was always drawn to music class. That was one of my favorite classes. I always, at the time, I didn't know to be nervous to sing in front of people. So I enjoyed doing that. And learning the violin was fun. I really liked that. Fifth grade, I got to pick up a saxophone, something you'll learn throughout maybe some music reviews and stuff that I do on here, is that I'm really attracted to the bluesy sound of a saxophone, jazz sound of the saxophone. So that's why I learned to play the saxophone and always wanted to chase after that real bluesy sound. Playing the saxophone would be something that I did all the way through high school, and still sometimes I will pick up my saxophone and play it for an alumni band kind of thing. But the real turning point in my love for music happened my freshman year. I loved playing soccer, it was really fun. I wasn't the best at it, but I had a great time playing it, but I broke my leg playing soccer. And it was during that time that I really embraced my love of music. That kind of ended by my choice, my soccer career. And I would focus mainly on music, marching band. I loved doing the show choir and just anything involving music. We had jazz band, we had pep band, anything I could get into. And by that time, I was getting to the point where the comfortness that I had as a child went away. And I was starting to get nervous in front of people when it came to singing. I didn't have the confidence to try out for solos or anything like that. And I was a little late to joining in musicals for the high school just because I didn't have the confidence to really be up on the stage and do that just on my own. It was okay if I was in a group setting and singing, but I didn't like to be the standalone person performing. So during high school, I also was able to be in a band, a rock band, which was very fun, and I enjoyed doing that. We played a lot of places, and we weren't the best, but we formed on the fact that I had always had a guitar underneath my bed. which was my dad's guitar, and it was one where the case was actually the amp for it. It was an old tube amp case, and it was really cool. I always would get it out and kind of just mess around with it when I had the music going through the CD player. I would try to just noodle around a little bit with it, find a note that fit, and kind of work off of it from there. So when my friend approached me and said, "Hey, I got a bass, I'm thinking about forming a band," my natural reaction was, "Well, I got a guitar, I can play guitar." Which then ended up leading to me having to learn how to actually play the guitar, because up until that point, like I said, it had just been under my bed and I had only gotten it out to noodle around a little bit. So, thankfully, for tab sites and everything, I was able to actually learn how to play the guitar. I found it a lot easier to learn the instrument if I learned songs that I liked. I couldn't just sit down and look at a chord book and, okay, this is a C, this is a D. I liked learning it through a song I liked. So those things always luckily came easy to me. I've had an ear for music, so when it came to violin, saxophone, guitar, I liked playing the drums a little bit. I had a drum set when I was a kid, and all that stuff kind of came natural to me, which I'm very fortunate for. And so after forming this band, it didn't go the best, and we ended up splitting up, and me and the drummer from that band ended up forming another band, and he ended up switching to bass, and another one of our friends played drums, and that was a really fun time. I really got into songwriting through that band. We all worked well together. We were all really good friends. We went to concerts together. We hung out all the time. It was just a really great experience, and I'm fortunate to have been part of that because I am from Ohio, and we got to play many places in Columbus as well as my hometown, Marion, and we just had a blast. But unfortunately, that would end as we all grew a little bit older and grew a little bit apart, as you sometimes do. And so then I took a little break from music for a little bit. I didn't really know what to do. I started writing a little bit on my own, recording drums, bass, guitar, vocals all myself, and occasionally putting something out there, none of it professionally sounding at all. So I had a lot of fun doing that, and that's something that I've fallen back in love with and that I currently work on. And I really enjoyed playing my acoustic guitar and doing vocals and playing at a lot of breweries and some vineyards, just anywhere that would let me play. I'm not really great at putting myself out there. A lot of confidence issues in that fact, and I still get nervous whenever I play in front of a group of people. It takes me a few songs to really get into my spot, but I try and I have a lot of fun doing it. Music is just a huge part of my life now. I've actually started getting involved with local musical productions a little bit and getting back into wanting to be up on the stage and getting that confidence back. And I'm fortunate to have a son that's following in those footsteps as well. He loves being involved in local musical productions as well as school productions, and he's great, and it's just great to see that love of music passed down to him as well. As far as doing anything like this before, it hit during COVID time, and Rolling Stone released a list of 500 greatest albums of all time. which I didn't necessarily agree with, reading a lot through those albums. And so I started a podcast for a little while, and it was basically me going through and listening to 500 albums and giving my review of them, trying to rank them in what I would consider the order to be. And that just got to be a real big task. It takes a lot of time to not only listen to the album, but to give a review of the album and put something like this together. And life happens. We welcomed a new baby girl a few years ago in 2021. And that was about the time that I was in the middle of doing my podcast on the 500 greatest albums of all time. And so, with a newborn, life got a little chaotic, and I just didn't have the time because I wasn't one that wanted to just listen to the album and be doing something else. I wanted to be focused on just that album, really sit down and give it a good listen and give a real honest critique of it. And I made it through over 100 of these albums over a span of just over a year. And it just got to be too much. The albums were getting long. There were some albums that were a couple hours long. And that just became too much of a project and honestly mentally draining because I felt like they would come out with a new list by the time I finally got through this list. So, unfortunately, that came to an end. But I always knew that I wanted to come back and do something involved in music. And that's where we get rid of the boring part about myself and we get into what this is going to be and my hopes for this. And as I said in the beginning, I want this to be the one stop spot for everything music. I'm not saying I'm the first. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that do this. But I know me personally, I follow a lot of people that are genre specific. They give music news about mostly rock. If I'm being honest with everybody, rock and roll is my favorite genre. That's the one I've always been drawn to. Obviously, playing guitar, drums, things like that. I've always been more into that genre of music. But my love for music spans all genres. And if I'm being honest, country's not one of those genres that I'm huge into, but I do listen to a little country as well. But I try to stay up with all new music. I appreciate the old music. So I wanted to put something together that would reach across all genres and be more for those people that aren't just into rock or hip hop or country, someone who had broad music interests. So that's why I wanted to put this out there because I'm someone who has a very diverse group of music that I'm into. And I know that there's more people out there. And like I said, I know that there's probably other people out there that do this, but this was my way of wanting to get back into doing something like this. So that's the route that I chose to go. Now, what that means is I want to stay on top of the music news, any big stories happening, I want to share across all genres. I want to be on top of new music releases. I love discovering new music. So to me, knowing that someone's came out with a new album is really great because sometimes I don't know that an artist is dropping a new album. So I usually try to stay up on top of that and I want to share those, maybe do a new music Friday kind of thing because a lot of music nowadays is released on a Friday. I want to be on top of what's popular now. I know they have a top 100 that they put out, Billboard mainly, puts out every week. And I want to be on top of that. I want to share, not all 100, but I'd like to share the top 10. And I want to go through and listen to the top 10 because I want to stay on top of what's popular nowadays. I also know that they put out a Hot 200 albums list, and I'd like to share, again, maybe just the top 10 of that. I'm probably not going to go through and listen to every album on the top 10 list. I'll probably just stick to the songs in that respect, just because that keeps down on time commitment that I would have to do in listening to 10 albums every week. So, and I know a lot of those are going to repeat from week to week, so it wouldn't be 10 new albums, but still, that's just a lot for me to try to listen to. So, I'd like to keep it to just the top 10 songs. As far as reviews go, I am open to doing reviews. I listen to new albums all the time, so as long as I'm listening to them, I might as well give my opinion on what I think about the album. And I also want this to be a platform for all of you. I want this to be what you want it to be as much as I want to share what I like. So that's where I take in suggestions. Is there an album that you want me to check out and give my review on? Is there a new song that you're really liking? I want to know about it. Anything that you want to share, that you want content on, I am open to. And I would love to do just to make this a great open place to share all things music. Now, I mentioned before that I do play acoustic guitar and sing while I'm out, and I want to share that with you guys as well. Now, this isn't only going to be a podcast, it's going to also be a YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel will have a little more content than just the podcast. As far as podcasts go, I would like to keep this to the New Music Fridays and the music news throughout the week and the top 10s of the albums and the songs being released that week. And I just want to keep it to those formats. But as far as the YouTube channel goes, that's where you maybe would get a little more of me as an artist. I want to share the songs that I like to play when I perform out and do covers, acoustic covers, vocal covers of what I do when I'm playing out. And any other things that would be more of a visual and be more beneficial to YouTube would be just exclusively on the YouTube channel. I just wanted to get this out to all platforms. I wanted to be able to reach as many people as I can to share all things music, music news, and me playing, and anything, reviews, thoughts on certain things that are going on in the music industry. I just want to be able to share that with everybody. So that's why I am taking on doing a podcast and a YouTube channel. So just try to, if you're interested, keep up with both because, like I said, the majority of what's going on is going to be on YouTube, but there's also going to be a podcast. Not everyone has time to sit down and watch videos. So I like to try to put this out there so that if you're someone who loves listening to podcasts while you work or drive or anything like that, that you can still stay informed with music news and reviews and everything like that. So I think that about covers everything that I expect this to be. And like I said, this is just my idea starting out with. I would love to hear from all of you about what you would like to see in a music channel. What would make this your one stop spot for everything music? I look forward to getting started, and I hope that you all tune in and join me on this music adventure. I'm looking forward to really diving in and getting to know some new music, possibly, and share what I like. So, thank you again for tuning in. I am Gibbs, and this was Gibbs Drops the Needle. Until next time, stay safe and be kind.